Cultural identity is the personal framework we choose to understand ourselves and our experiences with others. It can be constructed around race or national origin, but essentially it is what makes one group of people distinct from others. It encompasses numerous aspects of culture such as religion, language, rituals, and traditions. The cultural identity search process can be difficult when you're a member of the dominant mainstream culture. You must explore and examine your cultural heritage and the impact it has on your cultural identity. My immigrant ancestors worked incredibly hard to dismantle the European identities and assimilate into mainstream American culture. They changed their last names, discouraged their children from learning their native tongue, and abandoned the traditions of their homeland. Within a generation, they were no longer English, German, Welsh, Irish, or Russian. They were simply American. My mother is of English and Irish descent. My maternal grandfather is witty, unwaveringly optimistic, and fiercely independent. He was a hard worker and a heavy drinker in his younger days. He was born on a farm in a little town called Iola near Brenham, Texas. His parents were immigrant farmers and they would travel by wagon following crops. They picked cotton, beans, corn. This was in the early part of the 19th century when the Irish were still considered to be second-class citizens. They were very conservative, religious people, and this influence has been passed on to me. My mother instilled a love and a reverence for Christ that has been a guiding principle in my life. My father is of English, German, Welsh, and Russian descent. My English ancestors have been in the United States since the 1700s. For Christmas dinner, we would have the traditional lamb with mint jelly and pop open the crackers that contain little toys. I was in my late teens when I learned that that was actually an English tradition. My paternal great-grandmother was a first-generation American, the child of German and Welsh immigrants. They settled in Oregon and later moved to Los Angeles. The only vestige of Germanic ancestry is that my paternal grandmother makes baccarat, a German red cabbage dish that's terrible. Now, my father spent his early 20s living in Germany, where he connected with his German heritage in a horrendous manner. He made friends with Germans who had strong nationalistic beliefs and supported the resurgence of the Nazi Party. Growing up, my dad would sing Nazi war hymns in German and listen to traditional Bavarian music. He gave me a copy of Mein Kampf for my 10th birthday. When I was young, I just accepted this as the norm. As I grew aware of the implications, I became incredibly liberal and tolerant in order to compensate for the shame I felt for these actions. Cultural identity is not a static principle. It's dynamic, multifaceted, and over time your cultural identity can change and will change. Different people and experiences can have a large impact. I've always identified myself with mainstream white American culture. My husband is a Hispanic American, and his culture and heritage have merged with mine in many ways. I'm not fluent in Spanish, but at times I think of a word or concept and it comes to me in Spanish first. Respect and etiquette are an integral part of Mexican culture, and over time I have subconsciously altered my behavior and mannerisms. I have also become acutely aware of prejudice and biases experienced by Hispanic Americans. We're not all on an equal playing field when it comes to race and ethnicity. Immigration, color bias, language persecution are all topics that I had never even thought about or discussed until my cultural identity started to incorporate Hispanic culture. I strongly believe that the words you say are not nearly as important as how you say them. Nonverbal cues, facial expression, syntax, and intonation are all equally important, as the nonverbal communication factors are as well. I'm a very visual person, and I value these additional channels, especially when trying to overcome a language barrier. Hispanic people tend to be very passionate, very emotional. My culture of origin tends to be not so expressive. I had to adjust my views on acceptable communication styles. Growing, learning, and changing are all true hallmarks of my personal cultural profile.